Every history has a beginning, but some come to untold chapters.
In 1985, a man was fired from the company he had founded in his own garage, with his own hands. At 30 years old, he had nothing. No company. No title. No plan. Just humiliation. 11 years later, he walked back through the same doors and built the most valuable company in the history of the world. The iPhone. The iPod. The Mac. Pixar. All of it came after the firing. His name was Steve Jobs. And this is the greatest comeback story ever told. Steve Jobs was born in 1955. In San Francisco. Adopted at birth. He was restless from the beginning. Dropped out of college after one semester. Because he felt guilty about spending his parents' savings. He slept on floors. Returned Coke bottles for food money. Walked 7 miles every week to get one free meal at a Hare Krishna temple. In 1976, aged 21, he and Steve Wozniak built a computer in a garage. Jobs saw what Wozniak had built and immediately understood something Wozniak did not. This was not just a machine. This was the future. Apple was born. Within 4 years, Apple had gone public. Jobs was worth $200 million. At 25 years old, he was on the cover of magazines. He was called a visionary. A genius. The future of technology. He believed every word of it. That was the problem. By 1983, Jobs had hired John Sculley, a senior executive from PepsiCo, to be Apple's CEO. He convinced Sculley to join. With one of the most famous lines in business history. He said, "Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life? Or do you want to come with me and change the world?" Sculley joined. And 2 years later, Sculley fired him. The board sided with Sculley. Jobs was stripped of his responsibilities. Pushed out of his own company. He described it as being punched in the stomach. Having the thing you loved most ripped away from you. He was 30 years old. He drove home. Sat in his house. And had no idea what to do next. For the first time in his life, Steve Jobs had no plan. No vision. No next move. Just silence. And in that silence, something began to change. By 1997, Apple was 90 days from bankruptcy. The company that had once been the most exciting in the world was dying. In desperation, Apple acquired Next. And with it, Steve Jobs came back. He walked into Apple headquarters. The place that had fired him. And within months, had taken back control. He cancelled 70% of Apple's products. Immediately. He said, deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. He launched the Think Different campaign. He brought back the Apple brand. Then came the iMac. Then the iPod. Then iTunes. Then in 2007, he walked on stage. In his black turtleneck. And said, "Today Apple is going to reinvent the phone. The iPhone. The single most successful consumer product in the history of humanity." Apple went from 90 days from bankruptcy to the most valuable company on earth. All because one man was fired. Spent 11 years learning. And came back. Different. Better. Unstoppable. Steve Jobs died in 2011. Aged 56. Too young. Far too young. But what he left behind is not just products. It is a question. What would have happened if he had never been fired? Would the iPhone exist? Would Pixar exist? Would Apple be the most valuable company on earth? Nobody knows. But here is what we do know. The thing that broke him, made him, your greatest failure, might be the making of you. If you let it teach you, instead of define you. This has been Untold Chapters. Subscribe. The next chapter is already waiting.